This topic tonight is really exciting to me because it's all about emotional intelligence, which is the rock bottom solid foundation of all of my leadership training. Being emotionally aware, being emotionally self-managed, being emotionally intelligent. I believe that this is, if not already, your leadership style. It is the leadership style of the future that will take us, all of us, to the places that we want to go. It is leading through emotional awareness, not leading from emotional rejection. Like, it's not about denying or declining to feel. It is absolutely the opposite. It's becoming more emotionally fluent, more fluent in what our feelings are telling us, and operating from that base. So if you're joining me, say hi. And if you're coming on the replay, give me a hashtag replay. It's Josie with Women Who Lead with Heart coming on for my Live at 5, my weekly live training. All right, so here's the deal. Here's what I want to offer to you tonight. Emotional, like the power of leadership comes not from being austere and unemotional. It comes from being more authentically true to ourselves. And I don't just mean our power, I mean the power that we see demonstrated in the world. Your powerful place comes from your actions that are fueled with intention. Let's think about that for a second. Power comes from actions with intention, not unconscious action, not reflexive action, not reacting to something, but our powerful side of ourselves comes from an aware place, a decision to act from a place of clarity, from a place of knowing the outcome that we desire, from pointing ourselves in a direction and making clear decisions and conscious action to move ourselves forward. That's powerful action. Power comes from actions with intention. All right, so it's not the realm of being unemotional. We're not talking about power coming from being like completely void of emotion. We're talking about being aware of your emotions, for you to be clear, for you to know the direction that you want to go, for you to know your values and what you're passionate about, for you to have decisiveness. You actually need to be aware of your emotional state. You want to know what your emotions are. You want to be in touch with your emotional environment. You want to be clear and aware of your emotional frequency. Are you feeling really high? Are you feeling really optimistic? Are you feeling really open? Or are you feeling confused and sort of tangled and unaware of exactly what's going on? Or are you absolutely unconscious and on autopilot? Knowing where we are on the scheme of things, where we are in our own emotional range, is information, and that is power. Understanding the origin and influence of our emotions is extremely important when we want to take powerful action. To know if we're hurt, or if we're feeling nervous, or if we're feeling worried, or if we're feeling timid, we want to know more about the origin of those emotions so that we're able to take powerful agency and not just sort of react and respond from an unclear place. Are you tracking? And emotional awareness is all about becoming more fluent in what's happening in our internal environment, and then mastering that internal environment by processing the emotions completely. That doesn't mean that we're not emotional. It means that we are embracing our emotional side as part of our whole selves. And I believe that as leaders, as women in the world, as people who are making a difference, as people who want to have influence, we need to own all sides of ourselves. We don't need to be sold some lie that there's a piece of ourselves that should be discredited, discounted, ignored, downplayed, stuffed down. And I'm talking about our emotional side. Are you following? I'm saying that for us to be our authentic leadership selves, we want to go deeper in not walk around and avoid. We're not trying to stuff down or pretend that we're not an emotional being. That's our human self. I think a lot of this has been sold to us by sort of a very a very broad interpretation of what male leadership is or what a true leader looks like from a male perspective. This idea that leadership is cold and clear and stoic and austere and maybe void of emotion or just dominant and domineering and charging forward without an incorporation of a softer emotional side, that this has been sort of sold to us as what leadership looks like. But it really isn't a whole person, not even if it is coming in the form of male leadership. That's not a holistic picture of who we are as people. If the masculine side is austere and stoic and quieter in their expression of feeling or harder rather than softer, that's fine, but there also needs to be the feminine side that is receptive, that is aware and incorporating, that is capable of articulating the range. And I mean this regardless of gender, that as a female, we can have typically masculine qualities and characteristics to our leadership and the way that we present ourselves to the world, and our feminine side. We can be a whole person that incorporates the wide range of what we're capable of, and so can men. But we have been putting ourselves in boxes and disallowing certain elements of leadership or emotion based on the socialized notion that there's a male way and a female way, that there's a right way and a wrong way, that there's a better way and a worse way. We have been told somewhere along the way that it's okay for the masculine expression of leadership to be sort of like pounding fist on desk, being assertive, forthright, even angry, domineering, hostile, and dictatorial. We don't see that as too emotional. And I don't know why, because it actually is unbridled emotion that isn't processed, that isn't thought through, that isn't aware. That's sort of like rage. You know, it's sort of like frustration or anger or aggression that is just blurted out. And for some reason, we've never judged that as being too emotional. We just see that as sort of like male dominance. Whereas women, even or men and women, have internalized that being feminine is not leadership potential, that crying should be avoided at all costs, that it looks weak, that it disables our leadership perspective or our mantle of authority. Does that resonate for you? Are you someone who is emotional and is afraid to cry in front of other people, especially in a leadership capacity, because you feel like it makes you look weak? I have more that I can say about that, and I understand it because we don't like to lose our composure, whether it's rage or emotional pain, whether it's aggression or getting teary. Neither one feels good if you're trying to be your whole incorporated, emotionally intelligent self. But we're not stuffing down the feelings that are here. We are becoming more clear and more fluent and more in contact with what is here because we know it's important for us to be fluent in it. We want to know what our feelings are telling us. We don't want to just stuff them down. When we avoid our feelings, we're not processing them. We're pushing them down so that they end up squeezing out some other way, bubbling up to the surface in ways that are unintended because we haven't really dealt with them. Is this resonating for you? Give me a hell yes if you get it. All right. Our elevated way is to own our emotions, to be constantly processing and knowing what our feelings are, not stuffing them down, not feeling like having emotions is wrong. We want to own them. We want to name them. We want to understand what their impact is on us. We want to know why they're here and where they came from. We want to know um, what it is that they're here to tell us. Nice to see some friends here. Hi, Sue. Hi, Blake. Our emotions are information. They're telling us, like, I'm feeling nervous, offended, threatened, um, manipulated, worried, annoyed, pressured. And then we ask ourselves, okay, why are we feeling that way? Where's that coming from? Something that person said unsettled me. I want to know more about it. I want to understand where it's coming from. When we're able to process our feelings in this way, when we go through them, we don't walk around them, we go into them to understand them, then we know so much more about what's happening for us and we're able to rise above, use that information, and be an integrated leader. Our emotional side, our intellectual side, our feeling side, our thinking side, all sides are here. That's my brand of leadership. That's elevated, emotionally intelligent leadership. That's awareness and mastery and self management all together. It's not indulging emotion. Like, this talk is not about why being emotional is okay. Like, if you get really tilted too far, then it's okay to just indulge your emotion. I'm not saying that. I'm not making emotion wrong, but I'm also not making it right to blurt or confess or put all of your emotions in the space as if there's something other people should have to deal with. Your emotions have merit, but they have merit to yourself first, and it's our responsibility to understand them, to be curious about where they came from, and to process them because that's what we do when we're elevated, and that's what a real leader does. I think that there's this really interesting thing I'm going to share with you. I hope you find this kind of humorous and interesting and thought provoking. That if our job is to become more aware of our emotions, to become more fluent and fluid with them, isn't it interesting that when you ask some people to name emotions, there's some sort of statistic that most people will name like 12 core emotions, that's what they're capable of verbalizing in their vocabulary. But literally, there are hundreds and hundreds of emotions. And some different languages, different cultures have words for emotions that we in English don't have words for. And I looked some of them up. So I want to share some of them with you to explain the depth and the breadth of understanding that we can have about our emotional sphere, our emotional internal environment. The word aware in Japanese is the bitter sweetness of a brief moment of fading transcendent beauty. Isn't that an amazing word? How about Feierabend in German, which means the festive mood at the end of a working day? It's kind of like our thank God it's Friday, but something different, right? When you're feeling festive about work ending. Or another German word, Fernweh, the call of faraway places or the homesickness for the unknown. Isn't that beautiful and poignant? The idea that you could have such a longing for a place that you don't even know that makes you feel homesick, like you're cut off from something that is your heart's desire, a place that you want to be. If you had those types of words in your regular vocabulary, think of how you would be able to communicate with each other about why you're feeling a certain way. There's another word in another language that I'm not going to be able to remember that had something to do with the deflating, emotional, sad feeling when loved ones who were visiting have gone home. And I wish I had that word when my husband asks me, "What's wrong with you?" when my mom and sister leave after a visit. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just this really real feeling that I have, but I don't have words for. Let's try some more. How about this? Koi no yokan in Japanese, which is the feeling on meeting someone that falling in love will be inevitable. This isn't love at first sight. It's like the shadow behind knowing that you are going to love this person. How amazing is that, the nuance of it? Or this one that I think is so beautiful, sukha, which is Sanskrit for the genuine, lasting happiness that is independent of circumstances. It's like our word for bliss, but it has more texture to it. There's some fun ones too. Try this Norwegian word, taismake. I'm probably butchering it. To taste or eat small pieces of food, especially when you're preparing it, when you think nobody's watching. I think that's an awesome word. How descriptive. And then the beautiful Ubuntu from the Bantu tribe, which is being kind to others on the account of one's common humanity. I'm going to say that one again. Ubuntu is being kind to others on the account of our collective humanity. I think that that's something I would like to teach my children, that we should be kind to others. And the reason why is because we're all connected, because we are all human. We all share this experience. And there's this one word in an African tribal language that says it all so much better than I could actually explain. Okay, so that was a little bit of a digression, but a reason why we want to become more fluent and more aware and more capable of naming our emotions, because emotional awareness is the base of emotional management, which is the base of emotional mastery, which is the base of emotionally elevated leadership, for us to be able to communicate with others from a place of self-management and self-awareness, and communicate heart to heart, head to head with other people from an elevated, beautiful place of integrated humanity, not cleaved off trying to be a certain way, trying to be clear and not integrated with our feeling selves. It's all blended in. And if you want to call it female style of leadership, I'll take it. But I actually think men can do it just as well. We just need to see that this is the way our leaders act, with integrity, with authenticity, with their whole range, like their whole range, capable and in touch for themselves to be able to draw upon. So, the next time you think to yourself that you feel ashamed that you showed emotion or that you had emotion, try on for size that maybe the challenge of that experience was for you just to know that emotion more and become more aware of what's going on inside your emotional feeling side of yourself. And that's what I have for you tonight, my live at 5. I'd love to hear what you think about it, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week. For now, go well.